I think the focus is squarely on the euro and what the ECB does in response to what happened in the last 24 hours. What is your expectation?
Yeah, I think you have heard from other guests on the show. I think it's an incredibly difficult decision. So after what happened overnight, I think a 50 basis point is much less likely now, and the ECB would have a difficult balancing act between inflation on one side and financial stability on the other. I think the base case for us is now that they deliver a 25 basis point, but in the press conference, leaving open the options for the coming meetings, thereby gaining themselves some flexibility here. There is also a possibility that they would discuss, the availability of, new tools or liquidity tools that could help address the market concern around the banking sector. But certainly things are changing, very quickly in the markets these days, and you might as well need to see how the European banking stocks trading into this decision to see how hawkish the ECB has to sound.
Yeah, but do you expect 50 basis points today?
No, we think base case is more of a 25, and leaving open the guidance for the coming meeting. So not committing themselves, at the moment to create the flexibility. 50 basis point, you can't rule out because it's at the end of the day, it's still a very difficult decision, and inflation is still very high in Europe. But when you look at the balance between inflation and financial stability, currently or in the very short term, they are in a clear conflict, right? You have like two separate priorities that you have to address. But looking at further out, that if the banking sector continues to be in trouble, it does lead to a tightening of credit conditions. It does lead to a weaker economies, and it does lead to weaker inflation eventually. So there is a basis for the central bank to say, given these conditions, we want to pull back a little bit in terms of our interest rate hikes. To see how the banking system can evolve and to see whether this stress can be contained. And I think that logic applied to the ECB, but also applied to the Fed as well, which is why it's an incredibly difficult decision and a difficult balancing act that they would need to make.